Grab a cup of joe, buckle up, and let's embark on a journey of self-discovery, creativity, and entrepreneurship. Let's get rolling.
Welcome back to the Rhythm of the Road podcast. I have one of my to-be favorite guests on today. Not just a favorite guest, but an amazing friend, colleague, person, human being, all the things, matching haircuts. We got it going on from top to bottom. But as we're closing out season 2 on the Rhythm of the Road podcast, this is episode 99. And I thought, what a better way to round out season 2. We're talking about my road to 99. If you haven't read my book, make sure to grab it in the link below. Go grab the book. It's been out for a few years, but this is my road to 99 podcast episodes, which the average podcast doesn't make it past episode 7. So we're doing some good things over here at the Rhythm of the Road podcast. And I thought, who better to bring on the 99 episode, the road guy, the pavement guy, paving the way to success, Mr. James Golden.
Man, I greatly appreciate you having me on here for this, celebratory episode, if you will. Again, congrats on season 2. We're wrapping this thing up. We're going to have some fun today for sure. Definitely the road guy. I've been in this industry forever, so it's a lot of fun. I do all the puns with how roadways, parlay into success, the journey, the detours, the pitfalls, the potholes, all the stuff, man. But congrats to you. Lots of success. Obviously, I'll reciprocate, man. Jeremy and I, folks, have been friends now for quite some time. We connected through some networking events. Although he's in Minnesota, I'm in Ohio, man. We find a lot of times to, just hop on calls and just level each other up, be great sounding boards for each other. And what better way to do that than right on here on this podcast?
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to also raise a glass because
glass.
Though this will not air on a Thursday, but we're recording on a Friday afternoon. So cheers, James.
Cheers.
We're ending our week together with the cheers with our bourbon glasses.
Great toast. Great way to end the day here. Jeremy and I are bourbon guys for sure. We talk a lot about that. We've actually been to the Bourbon Trail together. We got an event coming up together, next week.
Yeah.
Down in Nashville, we're going to hang out and do some hangs and have some fun and, some brotherhood, some all that good stuff, man.
Yeah, and I want to just pair that a lot, James, with I feel like, and I'm going to share this on here because I think it's important for the audience to hear, which is you have to find your people and you have to find those folks that you can have inside your inner circle. And, for me, James he's that part of that inner circle, which is a very small circle, I can tell you, because of all the things he already said, because we can connect on a regular basis, and regular might be like once every quarter or a couple months. Like regular means when we pick up that phone or we get on a call, like it's like it was yesterday. And always being able to have that person that can be not just a sounding board, but an accountability board and an accountability person to speak in. And, there's always, you can have cheerleaders, but we don't want just cheerleaders. We want folks that can be like, hey, you you done screwed that up a bit. So maybe just think about it this way, or just to be able to be vulnerable enough to ask the question of, man, what do I do here?
Yeah. Well said. I've been a business owner now since 2011. Holy cow. It's been a long journey. These overnight successes do not happen the way you often see portrayed on socials and all that stuff. The real ones know that, and the real ones also know to kind of get to where you want to go, you've got to find the right people to surround yourself with. You can absolutely use the whole, go find the mentors that are doing the billions if you want to do hundreds of millions and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, for me, it's just finding the right people that have the right mindset, similar core values, very big for me. I know you got them right along my side. Similar interests are great as well, right? We share, affinity for the bourbons, me and my shoes and the fun stuff. We both got kids, older kids. That's something that you and I have discussed. It's important as well, transitioning into adulthood, getting married. Yes. I just moved our 4th kid into college yesterday, as we record this podcast, and life gets crazy. And when you can find that right group it just has to be a couple, folks. Like, you don't need to be out there trying to impress everybody. It's not even about that, right? It's just finding the right group of people that you can go share your stories, be vulnerable, celebrate for sure the wins as they come in, but at the same time, like, not be scared to ask some questions. Like, I'm dealing with this right now. What are your thoughts? So well said, man. I mean, it's important. I'm very blessed to have you in my circle. That circle is very small these days. It's about the size of a period, but it's designed and built that way on purpose, right? So, it's all good.
I find as we get later in life that circle just it's almost like it has to get smaller.
Right.
It has to.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it's going to happen organically anyway. I mean, when you start out in business, my Lord, you got, it's like feast and famine. You're out there doing all the things. You take the offers, you're taking the cash, you're meeting people, you're having the coffee meetups, especially like pre-COVID and all that stuff, man.
Mm-hmm.
You do the virtuals, you do all the meetings, but you naturally kind of start to learn, if you're doing it right, what you're really looking for both ways. You're looking for this type of avatar for your customers, but for your network and for the people that you want to be around as well. Very important. And just naturally you shed some. And by the way, like, shedding people doesn't necessarily mean that you don't like them and you don't support them and you don't celebrate them. It's just maybe you're not having those quarterly meetups or monthly calls, or they don't become the trusted text partner anymore. It doesn't mean that you can just kind of, you have to like get rid of people. It's not about that, man. Like,
right.
Plenty of people I've been connected with and I'm always celebrating, even if it's just a thumbs up on a social post to let them know, hey, I'm still here and still thinking about you, so.
Yeah, I think it's, you said that spot on, and like that cadence can get wider, right? As life, like, we all go through seasons, like, and that person might be going through a different season than you are. And that might come back and it might not, for me, my experience has been likely that it's not, but it doesn't mean it goes away, right? Because there's still people and we still have relationships, and sometimes it's that small little thing, even if it's a thumbs up on a post. Sometimes I'm going to use the word force myself, but that's not the motive, is to just every once a month reach out to some folks I haven't to in a while.
Yeah.
Even if it's just to say, hey, I just hope you're having a great week, because I feel like if we can show up for someone like that just once in a while, and not because it needs to be anything and it needs to go any farther than that. And sometimes if I don't even get a response, I'm not hurt by that.
Well said. You are a great leader in your own right, and that's something I picked up from you, man, at a probably early on in building the friendship. Man, it's like Jeremy does a great job of just every once in a while I'll get this text, hey man, have a great Friday, and it's like, man, like, that dude's thinking about me. It makes you feel good, and it makes you want to try to go out and do the same. A lot of us get stuck in our day to day, what we got going on, and it's not that we don't think about y'all out there, right? It's not that. Mm-hmm. It's just that sometimes we get stuck in the day-to-days. And I will tell you, someone that receives messages, trying to do better at sending more messages, because to let people know that, hey, you're top of mind today for whatever reason it is, whether I saw a post, or just something maybe nostalgic comes around, you know what I mean? And it makes you think about that. I know how it makes me feel when I receive the messages, and you do a great job of that. And it makes me want it to do better, so.
Well, I appreciate that. And I wasn't like,
oh man, take it. It's great.
I wasn't fishing for compliments, but I'm going to take it because I'm terrible at taking them.
We all are.
As you think about, I want to shift just a little bit, and mostly because I'm looking beyond you, and I'm looking at the poster and this kind of idea of success. James, what are some things, as you've kind of been in business for this last 15 years, what were some things that you could maybe boil down just to a couple of things where you're like, this is really what I keyed into to ensure that success was going to happen? I know it's never like it's going to happen now, but like it's going to happen regardless.
Yeah, man, it's a $1 million question we're all searching for. We're all searching for that definition of success. So many cookie cutter versions of it. The reason why I have stuff all around my office is just, I call them tokens. You know what I mean? They're things, you're either making deposits, right? Or you're taking withdrawals, so I kind of surround myself with things where I can kind of walk in. It's not for show. It's my office. You know what I mean? I've got stuff all around here. The success marks the spot. You can see my bald head is right above it every damn day. I'm on so many calls just like this. That allows me to just kind of focus on that, throughout the day. And success is actually defined differently for me, depending on the season I'm in, or the day or the mood I'm in. Sometimes success is just get these damn 3 tasks off my plate.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes success is reach out and have that hard conversation with one of my team members that I've been avoiding. Success sometimes is make sure when I get home, I tell my wife how much I love her and I appreciate her, because there's all these little things. Now in the journey of business, there's a lot of different things and ways you can look at this. It really does, for me, has always boiled down to trying to get a little bit better every day. That is a little cliche, and I do understand that and recognize it. We've all heard it. I'm just trying to get 1% better every day. Well, let's just be honest, man. You broke it down 15 years, 365 days a year. I'm not the greatest at math, but that's pushing 6,000, 7,000 days, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in theory, I should have got about 7,000% better. The reality is you strive for it and you shoot for it. Maybe I got 100% better, and that's fine, in a 3-year period. You compound that. So it's like the compounding interest is when you put your best foot forward every day for what that should be, for who you need to be, and everyone runs different types of businesses. Some of us have businesses of a team of 1, you're out there doing your thing. Some people out there have businesses with hundreds or maybe even thousands of employees, and at the end of the day, the tasks are similar, the tasks are similar. When you start building your team, though, you have to start defining and looking at success differently because you have to be a leader, and being a leader is a whole different type of conversation. But for me, what kind of defines success is when I come into my office, I've got remote employees at this point. I went from a team of 1 to about 30, over the last, 5 years, which is pretty cool. And I've got partners, I've got referral networks, I've got a wide variety of different things I've built through my network. But when you're engaged in those conversations, when I walk in the office and I see the team members really seem to be enjoying what they're doing, I'm sure there's complaints, right? I'm sure there's the water cooler talk here and there. But man, I've got people on my team that have been here now for almost 10 years when it's all said and done. So that's pretty cool when you can kind of look back on that and you start receiving those compliments from your team members to let you know that you're doing a good job. That means a lot. It goes a long way. When you're the trusted, responsible party for making everything work, you don't get a lot of compliments. You just don't. And that's why I said, yeah, take the compliment. We don't get them.
Nope.
But I will tell you, it means so much when you can either overhear something or someone approaches you and says, hey, man, I really see what you're doing here for us. And that means a lot to me. For me, the success is really all about that. It's making my mark, not just in the business, but honestly, it extends for me. It's the industry. And that's where I've gone the last 5 years is being the industry leader in my area. I just got back from a conference, and I will tell you, it's pretty neat when you go put all the work in, you create the assets, you deliver, you're doing the speaking engagements. Now you have people headhunting you at a conference saying, hey, I watched this episode of your Better Roadways podcast, and I did not even consider this, so thanks for doing it. And I'm in an industry, folks, in the engineering space, kind of throw it out there. I don't get the hearts and likes that a lot of businesses might, but I know people are watching it. I got to track my analytics, but that's how I see it is when I'm face to face at these conferences or through email or through LinkedIn and messaging, someone saying, hey, I checked this out. I saw that message. I saw that post. You're spot on, those types of things, so, I mean, probably a long-winded type of an answer from me, man, but success means so much to so many and in various ways. So I don't know how to do anything different, man. I don't know how to really work for somebody necessarily. I just know how to put my best foot forward and then seek the advice and the mentorship where I'm lacking. When I think I have a gap, I need some advice, and I'm going to take it, for the most part. I'll try it, give it a shot. It's not going to hurt. And then just keep moving in the right direction. Like paving the way, right? I say
Right.
that a lot, pave the way, and that's a pun for me, but it's also a reminder when I write and I put those types of things in there to remind myself to keep going, just keep moving. Success does not happen overnight. If you're making enough good decisions, you're going to make some bad ones. And if you can sustain certain seasons and create and continue to create, a good culture, a good environment, growing your team, growing your space, growing your industry, it's going to pay out for you at some point, man. And you get to kind of define that. I'm in a situation right now. Jeremy knows very well, from potentially an exit perspective, and it took a long time to get here, in a real meaningful way for me, where it feels good, feels right, and maybe it's going on to the next chapter, the next book, if you will.
Yeah, I heard you say a couple of key things in there. One is, you can't stop. You're gonna hit obstacles. You're gonna hit bumps. You're gonna, not all days are wins, but on average, they're gonna be more wins over those few losses. That's one thing I heard for sure, loud and clear. And really, to me, that's saying you can't ever quit, right? And if you don't give up and you don't quit, you're gonna win. I know it. The other piece that I heard you say, and you shied away from it a little bit, like, well, I'm an engineer, I don't get all the glitz and glamour. But the message I heard you say, James, was people are always watching.
Always.
And we're doing it. We continue to do those things and continue to deliver those messages for the moments that you showed up for them, that you might get to hear about down the road.
Yep.
Whether that's at a conference and you finally can meet in person, or someone finally feels comfortable enough to reach out to you and say something. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've been like, I've wanted to hang it up. Like, I don't need to do all of those things anymore. And that's the week when I'm going to get 5 people coming to me and say, hey, thank you for this. Or I saw that you were doing that. Or, wow, when you said this, I was doing a podcast interview earlier, and they're like, when I listened to this podcast episode of yours, I didn't even know who this person was until 2 hours ago. And they're like, when I listened to your podcast, like, it did this for me. And I'm like, okay, keep going. Season 3, here we come.
Man, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head with the 7 episodes. I had started a podcast way back in the day. I did it for the activity, just to do it. I don't remember the name of it, the JG3 project or some crap, man. But I did it you're going to suck at some of this stuff day one. Nobody shows up on camera just ready to crush it day one, right? Unless you've been trained and you've got that background. But I did it more just for the activity, to publish it, get it out there. And I kid you not, man, every once in a while, there's someone that's coming into my ecosystems like, man, that JG3 project or experience. I honestly don't remember what it was called, man. It goes back
I
to
think it's something like that. Yeah.
Man, it's like, I'm like, yeah, I did do that, didn't I? And they're like, yeah, but you were spot on with this or whatever, and it was really a great way for me to, if anything, vocalize or document my experiences at the time for specific situations I was going in. I didn't care about likes. I didn't care about what I look like. I don't care about how I sound like. It was really just a great exercise for me. Because I can tell you, when you start getting things off your chest, even if you're just talking to yourself or a microphone, the minute you put out into the universe, it's kind of like, wow, I did that. I did that. And then what it allowed me to do was take those experiences and say, okay, I'll dial this into my industry, into an industry specific type of offering. My approach to it's a little different than most, which is fine, but I still do it. And I do it because you don't get to 28 years in an industry and still be viable and marketable, right? Unless you know something. But I'm also humble enough to know I don't know everything. But we often kind of forget that when you kind of go through these experiences and all this time, you have all this knowledge, and maybe it becomes common sense to you that you think it's common sense, but these people starting out in their careers, they don't know it.
No.
So I almost feel like you have a duty to get it out there and explain it and talk about it and let people know kind of what's going on, and it's really cool when you're able to do that, man. This was very humbling. I've done this enough in my industry, for years. I had someone walk up to my booth. I was in Chicago at our nationwide conference. And I mean, I'm already red because I'm sunburnt, but I got really red. This guy walked up to me he's from a major company, and he just said, "Hey man, I feel like I'm meeting and talking to a celebrity. I watched all your content, all your stuff. Can I pick your brain on a couple items?" And I said, "Well, pick your brain. Like, let's define that." You know what I mean? I'm not
It's
that
our
guy.
favorite question,
You know
right?
what I mean? Like, look, tell me what you really want to talk about, and maybe we'll go over here and grab a coffee, right?
Yeah.
But it was pretty cool, man. And you're spot on. A lot of us do these for the wrong reasons. Not us, but there are people out there that are on here just trying to put themselves out there. I get that. But
Mm-hmm.
when you do it from a position of trying to educate, entertain a little bit for sure, but you're just trying to get that message out there that it's really cool without expectation. And you're the one that said that, right? You do it without expectation, but I can promise all of you, as Jeremy just said, like, you do it enough and you keep making those deposits, you get to episode 99, getting ready to roll into season 3, you write the books, right? It does start to pay off. You know what I mean? Whether that's in sales, friendships, a parallel business opportunity, whatever it is.
Because you never know what's out there, and you never know why or what prompted folks to listen, or what prompted that gentleman to reach out to you, even at a show. I find that so often, and then something else comes around at another time that you couldn't have imagined, and it's because we keep showing up.
Yeah, that's just it. You just keep showing up, and if you're doing this stuff right, you probably want to quit every day. You know what I mean? You can ask my wife. I come home 3-4 times a week. How did today go? I'm going out back with a cigar and I quit. That's how today went. And she knows, okay, that dude needs 20 minutes. He needs he needs a 20-minute timeout.
Yep.
And then you just kind of decompress a tad, right? And you think about it. Obviously you're not quitting, but again, cliche stuff is the only real way to fail is if you quit.
Yeah.
People don't need to get caught up in hundreds of millions of dollars and billions of dollars. The reality is most businesses aren't even going to break a couple million. That's just the reality of it. And that's okay. You don't have to have that pressure on yourself as a business owner to say, I'm going to define success as making a $10 million, business doing X. Maybe you can't do that, and that's okay.
Right.
Now, you should never approach it that you can't do it. You want to shoot for the stars. And if you hit the moon, whatever that thing is, but there are limitations to every business and what you can achieve. But at the same time, when you start finding ways to do things different, I think it really just boils down to dialing in your product, your service, your offer, right person. I don't do a whole lot of sales anymore. They throw me in on these calls to kind of close a couple things up, maybe some high ticket stuff, right? Which is fun, but I'll tell people like, look, man, you have options out there, just as much as you're vetting us. I can promise you, we want to vet you because we see ourselves as an extension of you and your team. We don't want your dollars and then just go away, right? We're building a real, partnership with all of our clients is what we try to get the message out. And I think the overall majority love that. They love hearing that transparency, especially when you're selling like contracts, like in our world. I'm in government, folks. That's fun. Selling to government is fun. Government typically low bid. You're kind of looked at as a piece of paper with a resume on it for what you're offering, and they're going to pick you or not pick you. Now we do things very differently from that mentality, but that's kind of the government stigma out there. You can absolutely build relationships. You can absolutely do it right and see them of that, they can see you of value. And, you got to remember at the end of the day, like even if it's a procurement individual reading 7 different opportunities, right? People want to work with people.
Right.
And it boils down to that, so like I tell, our job is at the end of our contract duration, if we did our job right, you can't wait to sign up again with us. You know what I mean?
Right. That
because
means
we've created that
right.
experience for you and we've done our job. And if that is not the case, then we need to know about that. We need to know about that of where we need to get better. And that's a constant feedback loop that you got to get in your business. It's very important. I did not have that early on. Early on, you're a team of one or a few, right? And we're wearing all the hats and doing all the things and you lose sight of stuff, We're really hyper focused on that client retention and customer success right now at the business because it's important. You want to make sure you're creating those raving fans. They're telling people about you, and you're creating what I call an experience, especially in government. But that translates to every business.
Yeah, but I think you're taking a unique spin to it, and not just a spin in like a metaphorical way, but just you're taking it and putting what makes most businesses the most successful and putting it into space where maybe that's not always been the experience or always been the way folks, vendors, from a procurement standpoint, right?
Yeah.
I understand the language that you're using. It's all about the transaction, but you've really at PMG taken it to the next level. Like, well, that's fine. We get that part, but we're also bringing relationships. We're bringing in experience, and we want to know when we're not fulfilling it at our expectation level.
Absolutely. It's very important, because that's what matters. That's what's going to, folks, that's what's going to get you to year 15 in business. It's, are you creating enough of an experience, the client retention, still getting new customers, right? And just bringing it all together. There's a lot of business. I will tell you right now, in my space alone right now, there's a company that started up about 3 years ago, and they just discontinued it. And there's going to be more, in any business, right? Those are the things that I take notice of. And then what we do is when we're onboarding those potential clients that came from that, like, well, what was the experience? Where did they hit the mark? Where they not hit the mark? Versus just spewing about, we're PMG, here's what we do and how we do it, and here's we're going to solve all your problems, right? We really like to learn from the industry what they're looking for, and how do we find where the goals and objectives are in alignment both ways, and then you're going to create a great experience.
Yeah, and what I heard you say there was you listen first and you speak second.
It's
right. And 2 ears and one mouth for a reason.
Yeah, when you start off in this stuff, you're probably the primary salesperson, right? And it's feast and famine out there sometimes, especially in the first few years of your business. And it's important to get sales, and I definitely was doing a lot of talking early on. But you learn, and that's the other thing is learn, talk to others in the industry that you think, or other industries, parallel industries where you're seeing success, you're seeing, wow, that salesperson at that type of a company is doing very well. They have a great reputation.
Right.
Go learn from them. I did that. And now I have others trying to do the same with me. And that's the fun part.
Right. And, I think that, and then as you are reaching out to folks in your inner circle, you learn things.
Of course.
Right. Like our industries are not, like the media industry and the pavement industry are not really the same at all. But I've learned just a ton from you because of how you can take an approach to an industry who maybe isn't seen as something, fill in the blank, whatever that is, and made it into something. And then it feels like I can take something that's in my industry where it's very visual, sonically, very out front, to be like, okay, how do I take what you've learned in this space and bring it here? And really it's been the systems piece for me, and it's been the growth piece and how I approach those, and then just being patient.
Patience is a virtue, right? I mean, that's what they say, and it's true. And I will tell you, when I first started my business in 2011, a lot of these networking opportunities outside of your local BNI and all, those types of things. And I'm not trying to discredit those, by the way. If you're a local business, you probably need some of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I was trying to do some of that, and I just wasn't having success in terms of making good connections. Just the vibes weren't there for me. I'm like, well, everyone wanted my referral. I'm like, referral, like for roofing and for my insurance and financial needs, cool. And I realized real quickly, like, no one's referring me because there's just not an opportunity, right?
Because you're in one city.
Yeah, I'll tell everybody right now. So I sell to municipal governments. So if I'm in a county in a city, right, like I have an opportunity to sell to that county, that city, and maybe the townships in there, right? Now we're a nationwide company, at this point, so it's kind of irrelevant. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of those situations, but from a local perspective, I figured out quickly, like, you know what? I'm not a local business, and that's okay. I am not your traditional local company. I don't have that local offering, buy one, get one free, take 10% off, right? Hang out with James and have a coffee guy, I had to learn that quickly. But to your point, and I'll get there, you had to start understanding there's so much value in other just business owners. They don't have to be in your industry, right? It's irrelevant. The type of industry that someone is in, if they're not in that with you, right, it doesn't mean you can't learn from them and you can't take away specific things. I mean, I'm one of very few people in my sector that does a lot of social outreach, right? And people now finally in 2025 are starting to ask me, like, how do you do it? How does your company, how did you grow your brand and your business this way? And it's like, well, a little bit of a secret sauce, but guess what? I learned from some really great people that did it in a very, very, very good manner, right? You know, different businesses. So I absolutely did that. Like, what is working here? What can I try? How can I make that in my world, you know, translate? And then just do the work. That's what it really boils down to. Do the work and do it consistently and over a long period of time, you know, and you'll have some success, you know. So
I love that. You know, we can deep dive this all day long.
As long as you want, man. I got bourbon left, so.
So do I, oddly. You know, let's talk a little bit about that. You know, I think one thing that's unique about what we've been able to do, James, is like take time to do something that's also out of the norm, which is to like go spend time and do things and have conversations as men in similar spaces, right? Our kids are similar ages, business owners doing many of those same things, and just taking time to check out and get out and be intentional about it, you know? And I know we tried and had I guess it's a failure, but it's not. It was a learning opportunity, just like, because we're like, oh, let's do an event because we did it once. So all of a sudden we're experts and we should just do an event. And the event, folks, that didn't happen.
Yep.
Just so you all know, it didn't happen. And so what we decided was, well, that's fine. We're going to still go do this because we're the ones that saw the value in the beginning.
Well, you're spot on, man. Look, ideas are amazing. I mean, at this point in my, I guess, career or whatever you want to call it, I'm fortunate to where I'm being pitched ideas, you know, within the industry and things like that. And I mean, I can recognize an idea for some value, but then it's just quickly, it's like, well, what's the plan? How are we executing it? Who do you see is your ideal customer for this? Whatever I'm saying back. And all of a sudden you can start to filter through the folks that have really thought through it and those that haven't, you know? And that's why business is hard, everybody. You know, you take an idea. Jeremy and I had a freaking amazing idea. It's still a great idea.
Still
right?
a great idea.
But I think part of the problem for us, buddy, is that at the time your bandwidth is only so much too. You know, like you are only so much Jeremy and there's only so much James and we're both busy doing stuff. And then we did, by the way, everybody, we did have a plan. We did take action. We did put some stuff out there. We just probably didn't do it at the level it needed to be done at or the timeline. We tried to throw something together pretty quick. But to Jeremy's point, we saw value in it and we just did it together. And what I can tell you is it was probably better that it happened that way because you and I just got to spend a couple of days together being guys, you know, and just catch up and really started building the bond that we've developed at this point that we're just going to go do it again, you know, and here in a few days, honestly.
Yep.
And sure, maybe there's an opportunity down the road, you know, where we can get some other like-minded folks in there that want to go chase some bourbon down and have some fun with it. Maybe not. But the fact that we saw value in it with each other and did it, that's all that matters.
Yeah. So we'll still be doing it. So if you're hearing this and I'm on episode 200, make sure you check in with us because we're probably doing something even cooler than what we're doing today.
And I don't
know what that is yet.
We don't know what that is yet, but he and I have a lot of ideas from bourbon investments to trips to experiences to whatever. And if it's just the two of us, it's the two of us. But I'll extend that if it's okay. It's your platform. But shoot, if anybody out there is interested in that type of stuff, man, reach out. You know, we're your huckleberry, right?
Yep.
We like to go out and have a good time. No expectations. You know what I mean? Obviously, things come at a cost. You know, he and I we're not trying to make money and get rich off of doing stuff like that. But It is cool when you get some people together and you go through these amazing experiences like you and I did, like say Old
Mhm.
Forester. Remember that one? Like that was a pretty
Oh,
cool
it's still
experience,
my favorite.
and you're like, man, this was awesome with the two of us. I just wish a couple of our buddies would have came along to
Uh-huh.
experience it too, you know? And that's one thing I do want to say. To grow, you do have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. And
Mhm.
sometimes for a lot of people, I mean, I might seem like I'm an extrovert. I mean, I'm on camera. You're on camera. We talk, we hang out, we network. I'm going to tell you right now, the first thing I want to do when I'm done at my conference is go to my hotel room and be alone.
Mhm.
I'm like the introverted extrovert. That's a thing, everybody.
It is.
And then sometimes when you see like your friends or others that you may look out to, I'm not going to say look up to, but you look out to, you see them doing stuff, you're like, man, that looks pretty cool, but I'm not sure how I'd fit in. I'm not sure if I have the extra $500 or $5,000 to do it or whatever
Mhm.
the case is. I would just challenge people to just go try things and do things, man, because I'm that guy. I've done some pretty cool experiences with strangers,
Mhm.
and I can promise you I survived. I'm still here. They survived. They're still there. You come away with it with that circle. Maybe I added one. I probably
Mhm.
didn't add 15, and that's okay. That's perfectly okay. It's fun when you put yourself out there, you become a little vulnerable, and you just get around other people doing other things. It's just great to
Mhm.
really grow and learn from. I've done a lot of that, and then you and I do it together. So
Yeah. And we're going to still be doing it. So if you're listening to this, you're watching this, reach out to us,
yeah,
find out where we're going next. And if you want to come along for the ride,
show up.
cheers to that. All you got to do is show up.
That's it. He's got a media company. I got a pavement management company. We're not. This is what we do.
It's just we're out here having fun being extroverted introverts.
There you go. There it is.
Love it. So, James, if there's one thing that you could leave the audience listeners with today as they're thinking about what's next for them based on your experience, what's something you could leave with them?
I'll tell you something that's really top of mind for me right now, if that's okay. When I started out in business for myself, I never had an exit plan or a strategy. I just was happy to go out into business for myself, and there's freedom that comes with that, everybody, for sure. That's why you do it. You get to control a lot of things. There's also a lot of stressors and headaches that come with it. I'll tell you a takeaway. The last thing I want to see people doing is just saying that hey, I'm the CEO, I'm the president of my company, but yet you're a team of one or two. It starts that way. That is absolutely fine. But when you look at yourself and you're 5, 6, 7, if you're still in that space, I want you to rethink where you're at and what you need to do to set yourself up for further success. What does that mean? There's going to become a time, everybody. I'm 47 now. When I started my first business, I was 31, 32-ish. You know what I mean? I wasn't thinking about that. Well, now I'm 47. So that's what I've been telling everybody here. When I go back to about 5 years ago, I started repositioning this business, not to put it in front of clients, but in front of suitors.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a different game. What do you need to do to start being looked at as a viable option to either A, be acquired, joint venture, merge, sell? And when I say this, everybody, I don't mean like you sell it and you have to get out of the industry or quit what you're doing if you
Mm-hmm.
enjoy it, right? But it's sad because I am at a point, especially with a lot of the older connections that I've made. I'm watching people who have built a business of some value, but not enough value because now they're in their 60s
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, "Hey, man, I have a situation. I need to sell, or I need to do something." And they're being forced into either a private equity play they don't like
Mm-hmm.
because they need some cash, or you know, they need to sell their business. And after you're going to go pay them capital gains, you can't necessarily retire. Not that anyone wants to retire, but you know where I'm going with this, right?
Yep.
So that's something that I would like to share with everybody is and reach out for whatever value I can add. It's like I've been through this a few times. I'm in a really good situation right now. I'm excited about it. Jeremy knows all about it. I'm going to get this thing to the finish line because sometimes when you get into year 15 of your business, you probably are still doing things that you don't want to be doing. And you can delegate and build your teams and all that stuff. Of course you can and you should. You need to be doing that anyway. But I'm ready for a different chapter of James and maybe even PMG. There's other things, because if you're doing it right, your skill sets have grown exponentially throughout the time. So what you were good at 10 years ago versus 5 years ago versus last year have probably changed.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't created a business mechanism that's of value where you can potentially go do other things and reap those rewards, right? That's important. You're gonna be stuck. I don't want to see anybody stuck.
I think that's spot on. And if you didn't hear everything you just said, please rewind and go back and re-listen to what he just said. There's some real mic drop moments. And if you've made it all the way to the end of this episode, thank you. Hopefully we said something that you held on to. Hopefully you had a little laugh along the way. If you're in an evening and you're in a situation where you could have joined us as part of our happy hour, thank you, James. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for just being you.
Man, well, thanks for trusting me to come over here and add some value to the audience, man. I enjoy it. I enjoy your podcast. Obviously, I got that book. I read that thing a long time ago, so y'all go check it out. Jeremy actually just dropped a new workbook as well.
I did.
Why don't you do a selfish plug on that, man? I'm here I appreciate it, but man, like, you're doing some great things. Look, thanks for having me on here. I always enjoy doing this stuff. It's a lot of fun for me to pass on whatever, I call them golden nuggets that I've got for people. But this is your show, man. You're the host. You've got some great things going on in your business and your life. I'm not just a cheerleader, man. I'm a brother. I love watching you do what you do, and I appreciate your support. I know it's reciprocal, man, and I know your audience gets a ton of value from the content that you put out.
I appreciate that. And if you're wondering what James is talking about, yes, I did just drop a 365-day journal. That's a daily journal for entrepreneurs, business owners, and anybody that maybe wants to just do a little moment of pause every day. So we'll make sure that the link is below in the show notes so that you can find it. We'll also make sure that you have ways to get a hold of James. Check out all of his podcast versions because he's got a few of them. Yeah. And make sure that you reach out if you feel like you have some questions. I mean, James and I are both here. I've always been here, but also know James has been a huge asset in my pool of folks and a great brother and wonderful human. So thank you. If you heard this today and you can think of one person that needs to hear this message, please send this to them, because changing one person's life changes the trajectory of so many. So please do that. Thank you so much. Thank you, James. And I'll see you all down the road.
Thanks for cruising with me on this episode of Rhythm of the Road. Remember, the journey itself is the destination. Until next time, keep the rhythm flowing, and we'll see you down the road.